Hey, Home Guys Nation, James here, and Jaden's cruising around down in Florida. I'm actually in the secured spot. Let's just call it my man cave. And Jaden, you sent me something this morning that we definitely needed to do a video on. Basically, the U.S. house flipping profitability report. I'll bring up some numbers, Jaden, but what was the main reason? Like, you're trying to just let everybody know, like where we were from before, from 20. This report goes all the way back to 2016. What's your quick thoughts on it right out of the gates?
Well, I think the big picture thought of it is, I think sometimes people in the house flipping business don't realize how much the macroeconomic environment affects their business. You could be doing everything right, but if you're in the wrong market or the wrong time, it's still going to be hard. And that's the whole point of this report, is like, what's the whole country look like? How does it look like this year versus last year? What are the trends? What markets are good? Which markets are terrible? Because there are some markets in the country where if you're flipping houses, you're not going to make money. Right. It doesn't matter how good you are at it, you're not going to make any money. So you need to know this stuff, because if you didn't know that, you could go into these markets and try to invest in real estate, and you're going to lose pretty much no matter what you do. So it's important to know these things.
Right. So for instance, like, it looks like on this profitability report, 2016 was the peak, and it's probably 100% spot on, right? Because not everybody was doing it then. It was kind of a fad. You had your people that they did it, but it wasn't as popular as it is today. Would you say? All right, I forgot what question I just was.
2016, and then I lost you when you said 2016. So.
Okay, so basically, 2016, your ROI was 54.2% on flipping houses in 2016, and now your ROI in 2025 was 23%. Now, I'll tell you right out of the gates, 23%. It's not horrible still. It's just not what it was when it was 2016.
Yeah.
Which was when it was like awesome, super awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much got in there where I said, hey, 2016, not as many people were doing it. Do you think that affects the numbers?
Oh, I think for sure that's part of it. And then I think the markets, everything got more expensive too. So just a lot of things have changed. But yeah, the more competition. We started in 2016, and there was, we had one major competitor, and then maybe one minor competitor, and then we had a lot of little mom and pop guys. Is what we had. A lot of that. It's been 10 years now, and the market's matured a lot, and now you have pretty much bigger companies competing with each other, because I don't think that the mom and pops can compete at this point. You have to have access to a lot of things to compete in this market.
So you're saying your hedge funds, or was made a bigger deal on that too? You think your private equity groups?
Well, I don't know. I think we saw private equity in 2019 or 2020. It was a big deal, but it hasn't been for us, at least for a few years.
Yeah, we don't deal with the private equity side.
There's no private equity in our market anymore. It hasn't been there for 3 or 4 years now. So no, I don't think that's been a factor. But I don't think our margins have gone down like what this shows. I don't think our margins have changed that much, actually, since 2016.
Because this is nationwide, right? I mean, they're taking
nationwide, yeah. And I think different markets, like in the South, like the Southeast and the Sunbelt states, the markets change a lot faster. The prices go up and down faster. Like I'm in Florida, prices can double here in 1 year, and then they can fall 20% the next year, and that's
Well, the numbers are going to be skewed too. From you're doing a medium home. These are all medium homes? Or will these get played into? No, these are all medium home prices. I was thinking, like, you get the California ones, you get their San Francisco.
Well, this is just talking about flips. So it's just which houses have been flipped. And usually those are at median price points. People don't usually flip really expensive houses, but the median price point in like San Jose is like over $1 million. So that's included in there. So the San Jose market and the LA and stuff, the average flip sells for like $1.6 million because that's just a normal house there.
Right.
So that is in this stuff, but yeah, I imagine the Sun Belt states skew those numbers a little bit because some of those states like Texas right now I think is kind of tough in some of the Texas markets are kind of tough, and I'm not sure about Phoenix, that might be tough too. And maybe they weren't tough 10 years ago, so that could be part of it. But what we're seeing in this report is that it's the flip margins across the board have gotten lower across the country, and then also there's certain markets where it's still pretty good, and that's most of the Rust Belt states: Ohio, Pennsylvania, even Virginia, West Virginia, upstate New York looks good. And then the Southeast, like Georgia, Louisiana, those are pretty good states still.
Right.
So it's important to know, if you're in a good state for it or not. And then there's certain states that are just terrible, or certain cities especially, that it's going to be very difficult to make money flipping houses right now.
Right. Right. Hey, Brady, you want to shoot over to the next page there? And if Brady, if you have a question or something, and you're trying to like, hey, what does this mean? By all means, throw that out there, because one of us will know what it should mean at the end. Okay, so now we got the top metro areas of basically population 1 million plus, where some of the best returns on, like, wow, Buffalo, New York.
Yep.
It's plus 25. Yeah,
I think the best markets on there that I was seeing were like upstate New York, not just Buffalo. I think Rochester's good too, and maybe Syracuse too.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pennsylvania, like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Cleveland, Ohio. And the thing with those cities is that the median house prices are low, so you can still buy houses, fixer houses for like $100,000 or $150,000 or $50,000, and you can fix them up and then resell them at $250,000 to $300,000, where a homeowner can actually afford to buy it with the mortgage.
Right.
So those markets, because of the numbers, how it works out, like they still work pretty well. And
yeah.
Minneapolis kind of falls in that bucket a little bit too. Like we're a more affordable market.
So some of the highest return ROI from states was Pennsylvania, Louisiana, West Virginia, New York, and Virginia.
Yep.
All over 50% ROI.
Yeah. No, you have to look at two things too. Like you don't want to just look at ROI percentage, because making 50% on a $12,000 house isn't a really good business model. So there are certain cities like St. Louis where the ROI is good, but the average price point is really pretty low. So it's hard. Those are more rental markets. Like St. Louis is more of a rental market, I think. You can flip houses in St. Louis too, but that one and Memphis are more rental markets, I think.
Right. Yeah, that's Cleveland.
So you want to have a good ROI percentage, and you also want to have a high enough prices where you can actually get a good spread on house. Like you're $50,000.
Cleveland posted the single largest ROI improvement in any metro area. They went up 32%. Wonder what's that's. I've heard a lot of that stuff over in Ohio. Are they building some factories over there? Is there some big growth over there that we don't know about? Or
well, Columbus is growing. Columbus has. I don't think Cleveland has factories. I'm not sure about Cleveland, but Columbus has, like, the Intel factory is being built there, and a couple others too, I think. Okay. But I think Cleveland and some of those other cities like that, the housing market has been strong because the prices are so low and people can afford to live there.
Sure.
So Milwaukee's like that too. The housing market's pretty strong in Milwaukee. Not because they're building factories or there's any like new jobs or anything, just that it's a cheap place to live and people can afford to live there.
Right, but I mean, what's running those cities, and why aren't they going up? I mean, it's obviously people still need cheap housing, but yet they still need a job. So,
well, I've talked to some people that moved back to Wisconsin from California, and they just brought their remote job with them. So if you have a remote job,
yep, I've heard of that too.
If you just happen to be from these cheap towns, and you went and lived in California for 10 years, now you come back home and you can buy way more property for your money.
It's kind of off the topic a little bit, but I thought companies are starting to kick down on that because, hey, we're paying you because we're in California. We're going to pay you this salary. COVID hit, and now they push to the, to being remote. Well, then now they're getting paid California salaries, but now they live in Nebraska. And now that company is going, wait a minute, I can just go hire somebody in Nebraska right out of the gates. They don't even have this higher salary, and I can get somebody cheaper. So I think that's finally catching up to people too.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about, return to office and stuff. There's been a lot of talk about it. And I think the company has really pushed on it and talked about it a lot. I don't know how successful they were in actually making it happen, because like the neighborhood I live in is full of remote workers that came down to Florida during the COVID era. And I don't see anybody leaving. So they're also working remotely. And what I've talked to the neighbors and stuff, what they say is that when they started getting pushed on the return to office, they just have to go to an office that's like in Tampa or whatever, Orlando, like once a month and check in.
Right.
So it's not like they're still working from home. They just have to go to an office, or maybe once a week sometimes, to check in and just, hey, I'm here. I'm a warm body.
Right.
So that's what I've talked to a number of people that have that going on, but they still work from home 95% of the time.
Right. But I think you've heard of that California thing. I think my daughter actually she worked for a title company, and the title company was based out of California. And the gal's like, well, sweet, I'm going to move to, I think, Arkansas, where it's like a quarter of the price. Well, she moved 6 months later, she lost her job.
Yeah, I mean, that's a risk. I think there is a lot of risk when you're a remote worker, especially if you move away from the company.
Right.
I mean, if they have layoffs or something, you're going to be the other person on the chopping block. They're not going to let people go there in person. They're going to let them go last, probably. So, yeah, it's something to consider. But
right.
The other thing I would say is all this talk about return to office. But if you look at if that actually happened, then why are all the big buildings in downtown Minneapolis still empty? And not just Minneapolis, across the country. So if return to office actually happened, like the news articles had been saying the last 2 years, why are all these buildings still empty? It doesn't make these people supposedly came back to the office, yet the offices are empty. So I don't.
I wonder how much AI has a play into that too.
AI hasn't caused that many job losses yet, so the people are still employed mostly, but they're not in office buildings. And I think even in Washington, D.C., I'm not even sure if the federal government is back in the offices yet. I know just, a year ago or something, like almost like all those federal buildings were empty pretty much. I don't know if they still are or not.
Right. Hey, Brady, you can go to the next page too.
These companies have spent the last 2 or 3 years trying to push for return to office, and this is about as good as it's going to get for them. I don't see much more movement on it at this point if they haven't accomplished it in the last 3 years.
Wow. So this next page, Jaden, is the top metros by gross profit per flip, and San Jose is up there high. Well, yeah, I think that's because it's such a high.
Your price point is 1.6 million. So yeah, you also keep in mind when they say gross profit, all they're doing is the sale price minus the buy price. They're not actually accounting for all the costs. Like the renovation costs are not included.
Well, that's deceiving, isn't it?
So you sell a $1.7 million property in San Jose, and you have a spread of 250. Well, you had to renovate that thing in that spread too, and that renovation might have cost you 150. So and then your closing costs and stuff are really high, and your financing costs are very high because it's a $1.7 million house. So you may not actually be making any money doing that.
Right.
Well, so you gotta find the sweet spot is these high ROI cities, but they're not super low price points. You got to be like where you can resell over $200,000, so you can actually make some money.
I think that's deceiving the way they have it on here. So it says top metro by gross profit per flip, and all of them are the big cities, but those are some of the, I would think, some of the worst.
I mean, you may actually be able to make any money flipping houses in those cities. It's hard to tell. I mean, I know some people that do it, so it's possible.
So our next line really comes. It's like worst performing markets, and unfortunately, Texas dominates the bottom right here. I mean, Texas is really having a hard market. Is that this? You think that's because it's settling down a little bit from people moving?
I think so. I think, yeah, it's the reverse COVID thing. And you have that, like, you don't have the boom of people moving there. You probably have some people moving back out again. And then you also have, Texas has a lot of construction, like a ton of new construction.
Right.
If you're a national home builder, like Texas is your favorite place, right next to Florida, probably. So, you know, you're reselling a flip into a market that has a lot of inventory, and there aren't people moving there as much anymore. So, yeah, it's probably going to be challenging.
Right.
Florida's like that too. Like flipping in Florida's tough. I mean, we just did a flip down here to test the market, and we basically broke even on it. Like it's, you know, because you throw it in the market, you're competing with where we were at. Like we were competing with brand new construction at $299,900. Like that's a pretty good deal for a brand new house.
So this is something that I think we preach inside of our, when you're a franchise owner. This is what it says: avoid Texas metros. Despite having the highest flip volumes nationally, margins are effectively zero after expense. And this is the key thing: too many flippers chasing overpriced houses. So basically, what that tells me is people get excited in this business, and this is probably the number one mistake that people make, is they try to buy their flip. And you make your money on when you buy it, right? So you don't want to. They keep cutting margins because they're like, we still want to flip. We want to try to flip a house, and it's like, stop doing that. If it doesn't hit your numbers, walk away, because all you're gonna do is put yourself in financial, up the odds, up the risk, by you trying to give even $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 more than you should for that property. You agree?
Well, what I like to say is, like, I don't like to work for free, and I don't think other people do either. So why would you just love flipping houses so much you'd want to do it for free or even lose money on it? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. But Jaden, we've seen this so many times where people are like, I just want to get my own flip. I just want to do my own flip. I'm like, you're going to put yourself out of business if you do that.
Well, and they do, and I think we see it all the time. They put themselves out of business, and then they're not around anymore. So I think that's where working with somebody that's a veteran, I mean, with all the gray hairs to show for it, can help you keep you out of trouble. Right. Because it's really easy to lose money in this business, as we've witnessed for 10 years, other people doing it.
Right.
You really got to know what you're doing.
Right. Hold on here. I got to. Shy just text me. I gotta let him know that I'm on a podcast.
So yeah, I think we should, once you done with that, let's talk about the top markets a little bit more, and why we think that those are maybe good markets. I really want to kind of focus on that, because I'd love to, find some people that want to run a business in those markets. That those would be where our franchise locations would be at.
Right. Hey, Brady, is there another one more sheet on this, or is that the last one? Okay, so what this one does is this one, foreclosure pipeline. All right, so I'm going to do the foreclosures first, and then we're going to jump into the hottest zip codes for flipping right now, according to the study that we got. So one of the highest foreclosures, it's your state, man.
Oh yeah, Florida.
Yeah, and although it's not as bad, it's Florida, actually, Cape Coral, Lakeland. I do know that there's some lenders out there that are not lending in those areas, because their time on markets is like completely off.
It's the same areas that led the 2008 housing downturn.
Right. So people just get so excited that it's not always about the warmth. I don't think, they get, I want to go to Florida.
Is that there's certain parts of Florida that have no economy. There's nothing there. There's no jobs. There's no reason anyone has to live there.
And that's Cape Coral, right? I mean, there's nothing.
That's the only reason people live there.
Yeah. You still have to. okay, let's just say you have empty nesters, or you have the northern, what do they call them? Why am I drawing a blank? Your winter, your snowbirds. That's what I'm trying to say. You got your snowbirds, but then snowbirds, they want coffee and they want to eat in restaurants. Well, how do you get other people to service them? So
Right.
obviously they got to have a decline in other businesses too. I mean, I'm assuming the unemployment's low, just because there's probably jobs there. I mean, not high.
I think in general, like there's like lower paying jobs are very widely available in Florida. Like
Okay,
service jobs, like 15, $20 an hour. Like they have a hard time filling those jobs because there's not enough people to take those jobs. But
right,
what there isn't a lot of are like high paying jobs, like corporate professional jobs. There aren't a lot of those, especially like in a place like Cape Coral. Like there's none. There isn't any. Maybe there's some just servicey kind of jobs like gas station and your normal stuff, restaurants, gas stations, fast food, that kind of stuff. But Cape Coral doesn't. It's just a residential community. There isn't anything there, and there's no all the stuff you look at all economic drivers of a city like universities, military bases, large corporations, that kind of stuff. Like there isn't any of that stuff down there, so no one has to live there.
right,
If it's just a warm place to live, well, there's a lot of warm places to live that you can choose from. You don't have to live in Cape Coral, and that's
right,
the danger. Where if
right,
you look at you're going to invest in Florida, there's look at Tallahassee. Tallahassee has a top-rated national university, and the Florida state government is there. Like that's a good place, and there's also businesses there. That's a good place to invest. Tallahassee would be a good place. It's pretty cheap too.
right,
So people actually do have to live there for their jobs and university and different things. And then you've got like Pensacola and Panama City areas that have large military bases that drive and tourism that drive economic activity.
right,
But Tampa has a lot of stuff too. Like Tampa and St. Pete have a lot of economic things going for them. A large airport too, which Cape Coral doesn't have. So yeah, that's Cape Coral and that a little bit to a lesser extent Punta Gorda, uh, Port Charlotte are all kind of similar in that way. They're kind of far away from beaches, far away from airports, far away from economic stuff, and so they're really, if you have 100 sellers and all of a sudden nobody wants to buy there, then the market drops. That's all it takes.
right. So the next spot let's talk about a little bit is the hottest zip codes for flipping. And so this is I don't think I've ever heard about Indiana. I mean, I guess Indiana
But Indianapolis is a hot spot for.
yeah, but they're not even saying that. They're saying Gary, Indiana. It was
Oh,
one of
that's Chicago basically.
well, yeah, that's true too. Well, it's not Illinois. I mean,
It's
it's
higher price point than Indianapolis probably.
so the medium house price is that right? Purchase price 27 to 40K.
Oh wow, so that's really a rental property area.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, Little Rock's on here, and I would have thought Little Rock would have been less. Little Rock is the highest, 50 to 80K.
Yeah, it's got. Isn't that where the government is? I think in Little Rock, in Arkansas.
Yeah, that's their capital.
So that'll drive some.
Well, that explains it.
Yeah.
Jackson, Mississippi.
Yep.
Naughtycoke, Pennsylvania. I don't know where that's at. But again, these are all anywhere from low 27K to 80K.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about those kinds of markets is you could go into those markets and you could do a hybrid model of rentals and flips. You could do both, which is nice because if you can get those ROIs are essentially telling you what kind of discounts you can get on buying property there, and if you can buy properties at good discounts, you can fix them up and rent them out, and then refinance your cash out again, the BRRRR method. So
right.
those would be good markets to do the BRRRR method in. You just have to make sure that the rents are good and you can get into decent areas and stuff. You don't want to be in a war zone, obviously.
Right. Just the top five markets, best combination of ROI, volume, and opportunities. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we have a friend there already doing the business. Buffalo, New York.
Well, it's really funny is we have like two of our best friends in our mastermind group are in Buffalo and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That
they
is
both run pretty good sized businesses.
right. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee's always been I don't even know if that even dropped at all. Has it? I mean,
it's a rental place, so it's really stable on pricing, I think. Because there's a lot of demand to buy houses to rent out there. For investors like to buy in Memphis. So,
right.
I don't love Memphis personally. I do own a part of an apartment complex there, but I don't love Memphis.
I think the message that we want to get out to our potential franchisees is like, hey, let's get on the phone and discuss your market. Let us pull some more numbers in for your area. Let's find out and have a discussion, right?
These Rust Belt states in general are pretty good. So if you're in those states, that's give us a call and talk to us. Get on the account or get an appointment. Let's chat about what we can do, including Virginia. It looks like Virginia's got some good cities. So Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and then the Southeast has Georgia actually is pretty good. Louisiana and Arkansas are decent. So that's where we would focus. If you want to start a new flipping business, that's kind of where we would recommend looking at and being.
Yeah, not to say that, again, we don't know your market. Sometimes you could be a professional in a smaller market, because one of the things that I was just at a investor fuel meetup, and one of the things that I've noticed is these guys these newer guys that are coming in, they're grabbing these markets that have 350, 400,000 people, and they're owning that market. So I know we've always talked about, hey, you probably want more, but some of these, they're still running a 3-man team and they're doing excellent.
Well, it's actually better, so it could be better because you don't have much competition. Like we saw that with our Tennessee guys, that they are in a little smaller market, and I think it was a great thing for them. So I think Kentucky's good too. Kentucky's got some good cities. Tennessee, some good areas. Probably some cities in North Carolina and South Carolina that could work too. Not the big cities. I think those would be tough. But some of the smaller.
One of the things we're also dealing with, if you guys have seen any of our other videos too, is there's a lot of restrictions out there now for wholesalers. So one of the things that, again, you can always flip. You can still wholesale if you're an agent in some of these other cities. It's just, I look at it as a good thing, Jaden. It's weeding out the riffraff. When we put regulations on different things, you're leaving the fly-by-nights alone.
Yeah, right? I mean, we've always wanted to make the industry better. Let's make the industry better. Let's professionalize it.
Yep.
There's no need to run a business in an unethical way, and so we want to be the forces for good in the industry and drive it all out of the business. Yeah,
exactly. You couldn't have said it better. So, well, I think we've said a lot. I mean, again, I encourage people to call us up. Let's look at your market. Let's analyze a little bit better. If it's something you guys want to look into, a franchise with us, with Home Guys, again, look up our email. Send us an email. Brady will put a link in there if this is on TikTok, and we'll kind of go from there. So, you got any last words, Jaden?
Oh, like you said, book a call with us and let's chat. We can dig into your market or where you're thinking you want to invest. You don't have to invest in where you live either, so keep that in mind. But
no.
Love to chat.
There's a couple that have done that where they live somewhere else, but they know that market, and that's where they invest. Or maybe they lived in, like I know a guy that does it in Nebraska, but he lives in Vegas. Because he's from
a lot of people that remotely flip properties. So it's very possible to do it. You do have to get a good team in the local market that you're going to operate in, and then you can manage that team and work with them, over the phone and digitally, obviously.
Right.
So,
right. Well, cool.
Yeah, no, that's all I got. If you want to wrap it up with our tagline.
Yeah. Hey guys, just remember, we made all the mistakes so you don't have to. Look us up, like us, all that other fun stuff.
Book a call.
Thanks, guys.